Hello, this today is a stalk of grass. This grass is called sugarcane. Yes, this is a stalk of raw sugar cane. Today, we are looking at sweeteners, alternative to sweeteners that we all need. So how do we get this into this juice? How do we juice this into this? Well, that's the magic that we're looking at today, because we have taken this absolutely beautiful grass and we have distorted it and we have processed it and we have made it into a weapon against our own health or healing. And we not only have done that, but now there's an addiction going on to processed bleached sugars, when in its natural form, in its pure form, it is one of the most delightful, most necessary sweeteners that we have, because just like all grasses, this has chlorophyll. And we use a machine, a special machine that doesn't look like this. This is what you look like, what everybody nowadays, when we talk about sugar, this is what you'll see. When we speak about sugar, people think about things like that or like this, but that is not what we're talking about anymore. We're talking about taking the sugar cane, using this machine. This is a special piece of equipment. As you can see, it's quite big and it's quite remarkable because it actually changes this. We juice it just like you would juice any other juicer into this juice that you see here. And so today I'm going to show you how to make anything at all using that sugar cane. Now, what's really beautiful about this is that you can mix it with just about anything. And in the coming episodes, I'll be making all sorts of things that you would never believe could be made with this. But remember, it has chlorophyll. So in this blender, I already have put some coconut cream. Making the coconut cream is the easy part because it's just taking out the coconut pulp and actually mixing it with the water. And that gives us this coconut cream. And I put some at the side here so you could see what it looks like, the consistency. It's just like a cream. So the reason why I'm doing this today is because a lot of people seem to be so addicted to sugars that they seem to believe that they cannot do without it anymore. And yet it is the root cause of so many illnesses, including, I believe, some of the mental illnesses as well. So I'm taking the actual coconut cream. I'm putting just a few pieces of macadamia nuts in there. Macadamia nuts also high in fat. This is my winterizing a raw foods diet, or any kind of diet as a matter of fact. And you can, if you want, put some of your lemons in there. So what I have done is I've gone ahead and squeezed some of the Mayor lemon. And I'm going to just have you look at the table now, what we're going to be making this from. But I am not going to stop there. I'm going to actually put some foods in here, which I know are extremely healing. So this is the moringa, which I keep in a glass jar. And this moringa, another green from the earth, straight from the earth, that is actually one of the most beautiful gifts from the earth that we have been given, because this is actually a complete protein. It has all the amino acids in there. So when you're asked, vegan, well, how do you get your protein? Think moringa. So I'm going to put some moringa in here, a nice heaping teaspoon full of moringa in here, because I want this to be a high protein drink as well. This is something that any and everyone can enjoy first thing in the morning, in the middle of the day, anytime that you wish to have it. Now comes the beautiful raw cane juice. And this is from Ray and Robbie at their raw cane juice bar. And this can be really ordered just about anywhere. But have a look. See, when I shake it up, do you see all that green in it? And I just spilled some. And I'm going to now put this in the blender here. I hope you can see the blender. And what we're going to be doing is blending this up along with some other goodies that I happen to love. We will put some of the Mayor Lemon, already put that in. But instead of using, most people already know dates, and they tend to overuse dates. And remember, dates have no chlorophyll in them, which is why this is my preferred sweetener. But I'm going to put something that most people would not think of putting. I love nutmeg. Love, 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 love nutmeg. And so I am going to be putting some nutmeg in there. So I'm going to take this nutmeg grater. Yeah, there are actual special nutmeg graters. I am now going to grate this in here. I don't know if you can see this. I do believe you are not seeing it. So here we go now. Good. Here we go. So I'm going to grate some nutmeg in there. And then I am also going to put this on. I'm going to actually blend it first. Let me just blend this first, and then we'll come back to this. So just blend it on low. Doesn't have to be high. There we go. Isn't that quick? So look at the difference now. Oh, the smells. Doesn't that look frothy and incredibly intoxicating? If you were here and smelling this, you would understand why I say the word intoxicating. So here we have our glass. I'm just going to pour this in here now. See all the colors? Do you still see the green despite the white of the coconut cream? That's how much chlorophyll is in here. That's why you see so much of that white. And then in here, and the green also comes from, of course, the moringa. So this is one of the most splendid drinks you can have. One of the most high and deep in nutrition drinks that you can have. I'm so glad that you joined us today so you could enjoy this. This is, to me, one of the most beautiful gifts from nature. So you can sweeten with this. There's so much you can do with this raw cane. And there are more sweeteners that we can start using as well for the raw cane, other than just the raw cane. And for that, we go to Rio. Come on board, Rio, and show us what it is that you wish to do today.
Hi, Dorit. These are sweeteners that you can make from dried fruit. And over here on the left, I have raisins, and on the right, I have mango. And it's so simple to make these sweeteners. All you have to do is take the raisins and put, let's say, a cup of raisins. Oops. Into a bowl. Then just, okay, so you've got a cup of raisins here. Okay, so I'm just going to cover it with water. Like this. And then you just let it soak overnight. And once you let it soak overnight, you get a syrup. So the syrup is, can you see this syrup, Lee?
Yes.
So it's like, and it's so wonderful. And also the raisins don't go to waste because you can use that in cereal. You can use it in smoothies. You can toss it into a salad. You can do so much. So there's nothing that goes to waste. But you can use the syrup in place of agave, which is not raw, and maple syrup even though it's wonderful, it's not raw. So you can use these fruit syrups in place of that. And in this one, I made mango, and I soaked it also in water overnight. And to and in order to get more syrup out of this, I cut the mango into little pieces. And then I put the water like I did with the raisins. And then, as you can see, and I'm just going to take a taste of this because this is so delicious. Oh, it's out of this world. So these are two syrups that you can use to flavor instead of agave or instead of maple syrup or any other syrup that you might use that is not raw. You can use these syrups. And the fruit itself does not go to waste.
Perfect. Wonderful. And exactly how can we use this in other recipes?
Well, you can use it wherever a recipe calls for agave, or for some recipes call for honey, maple syrup, whatever other sweeteners there are, you can use this instead. You might have to use a little bit more because it's going to be not as strong of a sweetener, but you can just use a little bit more.
Wonderful. So
you can also, like, if you have make some almond yogurt, you can pour it on your almond yogurt with the fruit too.
Great. So when we think about this, let's talk about why it is that we're no longer eating beet sugar. Beet sugar is very genetically modified.
Exactly, yes.
And for that, we're going to bring in Rachel from Toronto, Canada, to join us as we start to talk about what's not one of the problems with sugar is not just that it's an artificial sweetener really for the body, but what is it that we need to know, Rachel, when we make these decisions on a daily basis, how we're going to use a sweetener, what we're going to be deciding to eat, we're putting into our diet?
I think there's so much to know. Thank you for having me, and it's so great to listen to you both. You've been working in this movement for so long, and really making a big difference. And when it comes to our food, we really have to start looking deeper at what it is that we're eating. And when we think about sugar, you're mentioning sugar beets, and that's a huge part of it, but it goes even further. I mean, most people don't even think of corn syrup, and that's a huge part of the sugars that we see on majority of processed foods. And so sugar from sugar beet, corn, both of these are about 90% genetically modified and are heavily sprayed with glyphosate, with Roundup, with various other chemicals that are then going straight into our bodies. And they've been proven, these types of sugars that are highly processed, especially corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup, to cause major inflammation within our own bodies. And the way that these foods are being grown is truly toxic for the environment as well. And so it's one more thing to look out for. And whatever sugar alternative you're looking for, or that you're making, just try and make sure that you keep your own body in mind and keep the health of the planet in mind, because it's so easy to feel addicted to sugar, that the average person is, and we don't even realize it, just because our bodies, once we have it, are continuously craving it. And so we just have to find newer ways and alternatives that are beneficial. So organic sugar, finding raw sugar cane, as you were mentioning, and even if you don't have the capacity to make your own, or perhaps you're not raw vegan, there are still things that you can do, like buying organic raw sugar cane, that can be really beneficial to yourself.
Great. And could you explain to people so they understand exactly what it means that these have been genetically altered?
Sure. So GMOs, it's where they take DNA from one species and add that DNA to another to introduce a new trait. So they don't have to be of the same species. And it's different than hybridization. Hybridization is crossbreeding, and it's been happening for decades in nature. This is actually food made in a lab where they insert forcibly DNA into a completely other species or seed. And by doing so, it introduces a new trait. So the two most common traits that are out there are herbicide resistant and pesticide producing. And herbicide resistant is actually where they engineer it to resist herbicides. So herbicides like Roundup, which actually you can still find Roundup on shelves at local hardware stores, and people used to use it on their lawns a lot, but it was introduced into our food system around the 70s. And as of right now, there's 300 million pounds of glyphosate, which is the key ingredient in Roundup, being sprayed every single year in the US alone. And so when we look at these statistics and the fact that it's linked to issues like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and various other health ailments, we really want to start moving away from these chemicalized, industrialized forms of eating and growing our food.
Great. So, Rhea, I'm bringing you on. Please, I'm going to unmute you first and bringing you on to actually go even take this a little further. Rachel gave an amazing introduction here. For people who do not know, can you let people know what are the solutions, please?
Solutions. Well, I just wanted to add to what Rachel said, which she's so eloquent. Rachel, you're unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
You're so young. So I just want to add to that when they do this genetic engineering, they're not just adding another gene into a different organism. There's many steps that go into putting that gene in, because they could put the gene in and then nothing happens. There's something called a promoter, and a promoter is what tells the gene what to do. Like, for example, the best example, and I think I've given this before, is let's say that I bruise myself. So my own body will send a messenger down into the DNA looking for the gene that creates skin, because it wants to repair my skin. So it locks into that, and it tells the gene to turn on and make skin, because Rio needs skin. But once the skin is made and I'm healed, the promoter goes back and says, okay, stop making skin, because Rio has enough now. She's all healed. So this is the same thing that happens with when they manipulate this DNA. They could go further and find the exact promoter that goes with the exact gene that they're trying to engineer. But that would take years, and they know they don't have the facility to do that. So they use an artificial promoter called the cauliflower mosaic virus. Now, the difference between the cauliflower mosaic virus and a natural promoter is that the cauliflower mosaic virus turns on, but it cannot turn off. So that makes a difference. Also, another thing that they put into that, and I'm skipping a lot because biology is very complicated, but I'm just making it very, very, and I'm not a biologist at all, but I have studied this, and I'm just making it very simple. When they do their manipulations to get the gene the gene insertion that they want, they have to know in that petri dish, they have to know whether it worked or it didn't work. So what they also add into this genetic package that they're doing is an antibiotic resistance marker gene. So what that gene does is, when they have already done their manipulations, then they put an antibiotic into the petri dish. Any organism that is left standing, that's the one that is their genetically engineered organism. And also what happens is that they have to do this a lot, because nature does resist. It doesn't want this to happen. So let's say out of 100,000 whatever's in the dish, they might get one. Ooh, they targeted on that one. And that's how they get their plant. And then to your original question, what can we do about it? Well, the first thing we need to do about it is become aware. And that's what we're trying to do by speaking out as much as we can, is make people aware that this is actually happening. People are not so aware that this is happening. I come across people every day that don't know that this is happening. So awareness is very important. We need more speakers. I'm so grateful that Rachel is speaking on this at such a young age. She's going to be an expert by the time she gets to my age.
Well, actually, I think she's really an authority on this, because she has been doing this since she was 11 to 14 years old.
Okay. My mistake. She's already there.
She's taken on some very big names in Canada. This is my dream come true, to have both you and Rachel on the show at the same time speaking about this, because you're the two people that I really love to defer to. As much as I have constantly, from the beginning when I came to the United States, been fighting against GMOs, I always felt like I was a lone wolf until I met you, Rio. And then I realized, whoa, we have a warrior here. And then later on, along came Rachel. And I thought, yes, this is no longer a lone wolf. So I want you all to speak today. I no longer am speaking about this because I think I've overspoken about this, where people don't even want to hear from me anymore about GMOs. But we have a lot of new people tuning in who don't know about this, and it's so important. So Rachel, what would you like to add to this, please?
I think we have to start. Also, Rio, thank you. I really appreciate your compliments, especially because you've been working in this for such a long time and tirelessly. When it comes to our food, there are threats happening all the time, and GMOs are the tip of the iceberg right now, because now corporations are stating that they want to rewrite the code of life, and they're working on gene-edited technologies all the time. New gene editing foods are starting to come out and are being experimented with. And this is beyond just a health and environmental risk or a personal risk. This is really the potential of the end of all biodiversity. And so I meet a lot of vegan people who often say, well, I'll just eat this junk food. It doesn't really matter. And I understand that, because sometimes being vegan or being raw vegan, it can be difficult and you want to splurge sometimes. But what we also have to take into account is the impact of our support for certain companies. And I encourage everyone more to find where you're coming from, to avoid ingredients like corn, canola, soy, sugar from sugar beet. These are the main genetically modified foods that are out there, that are on the market. Check your cereal, check your hummus that's in the fridge. Make sure that it doesn't have canola oil. That's such a common ingredient. And by choosing different foods when possible, we are showing that we don't support these massive corporations that are trying to own and monopolize our entire food system, and trying to own and patent seeds, and in reality own nature. So I encourage everyone to find out where your food is coming from. Try and make different choices when you can. It's a slow process and it's baby steps, but every little bit counts and every little bit is important.
I agree. Absolutely. Yes. And I just wanted to show this. This is Ray and Robbie. They are in the States, and they're the ones who actually make this product, juice it fresh, raw, so that we can actually enjoy it. And we already put the information up, but I want to say a big shout out to Ray and Robbie for really looking at the fact that we are so addicted to sugars in this country. And this beet sugar, the sugar beet, is just one of the most addictive things that there is. And it's in a lot of products. So as Rachel said, start paying attention and watch and read everything. And if you have to read a label, you're already in trouble. So if it doesn't come straight from the earth. So this is what I made today with the raw cane juice and the coconut and the moringa. And you can see it's quite simple, but at the same time, it is quite lovely and it's quite beautiful. So you don't have to give up anything. You're not giving up anything at all. And there's that mango, of which Rio spoke about before. I've got a little mango in this small one here. And I would like to, bring it up a little closer again, please, Rio. And Rio, could you explain to people why this is so important? Rio, sorry, Rio, I have to unmute you. Go ahead.
It's so important because we have to understand that food, nature's food, is like what we would call in the commons: fresh air, nature, water, fresh water, and food. That is what is called in the commons. All humans and all organisms need that. So what is happening today is that multinational corporations are taking over the food supply. And they're going to dictate to us what is food and what is not food. And we're not going to have much to say about it. When Monsanto was Monsanto, because right now it was bought by Bayer a couple of years back, I think. And but we still call it Bayer Monsanto because we don't want to forget all the dirty deeds that Monsanto has done. But Monsanto and a lot of other of these genetically engineered companies that are promoting this hideous technology, they have also at the same time acquired a lot of seed companies. Monsanto had acquired a seed company called Seminous Foods, which provides like 60%, I think, of the seeds in the United States, and also a certain percentage worldwide. That's a huge, huge percentage in the hands of a genetically engineered company. And what are they going to do with those seeds? A lot of those seeds are natural seeds, heirloom seeds. What are they going to do with those seeds? Many of these other companies has also acquired, but Bayer, which now acquired Monsanto, they have, you know, this Seminous vegetable seed company, and they are acquiring more. All of these companies want to lock up our seeds. What are we as humans going to do without seeds? We need seeds. That's in the commons. Food is in the commons. So it needs to be in people's hands, not in multinational corporations' hands. So it's very important that people come out of their shell and get involved in this fight. Fight for our seeds. We need our seeds back. As it is now, we've lost 90% of the seeds of the natural heirloom seeds. We've lost 90% already. Now, there are smaller companies valiantly struggling to regain these seeds, to find them all over the world wherever they can and put them into seed banks. But they need our help. They need an aware public to demand this from our governments. There's certain governments that have seed banks. But here in the United States, I don't believe we have seed banks, unless I'm mistaken, Rachel. Are there any seed banks in the United States that are government owned?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not actually in the States, but it'd be something that's interesting to look into and maybe something that we can follow up on to see if we can connect those solutions.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you. Yes. So as a last note, people have to get involved and we have to demand what is in the commons. And what is in the commons is seeds. Seeds belong to everyone, not to multinational corporations.
You know what is very distressing to me is that Marie Larson of the former Toronto Sprouts, which was a huge business in Toronto, which was absolutely incredible. Anything that could sprout, you know, she had it. And she cannot find seeds anymore. She was meant to be on this program, and she couldn't be on the program because she couldn't find seeds. Which we wanted.
So as Rachel says, maybe we can do a follow-up program and have her and discuss that aspect, because I really believe that aspect of it is one of the most important things. If we see right now, Monsanto has such a large share of the seeds. What if they decide to retire those seeds in favor of their genetically engineered seeds? Where do we get these seeds that we need so that we can grow the food that keeps us healthy? Where are we going to get them?
Excellent question. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but as of yesterday, maybe today, I haven't looked at the news today, but as of yesterday, farmers in India were in New Delhi protesting. I mean, huge protest. And many, many farmers. This is a huge problem worldwide because Monsanto, Bayer/Monsanto, really took this worldwide. They didn't just stay with the United States and then go up to Canada. They went really international with this and said so many things that were not true. And farmers actually ended up believing them, ended up losing their livelihood because if you can't find a seed, you can't be a farmer. And now they're in debt to Monsanto. But the worst part about it is the suicides that they've committed because they were the sole person working within their families to support their families. And this is who they are. This is what they do for a living, and they're not able to do it anymore. Any
And
last word? Pardon,
I
go
would
ahead.
like to just add one word to what you said about India. If people want to learn what Monsanto has done to the Indian farmers, just look up Vandana Shiva. She has many incredible videos on what Monsanto has done in India and how there's been hundreds of thousands of suicides because of it. Vandana Shiva.
Yeah, Vandana Shiva and Rachel
Vandana
studied, but Rachel, you studied with her, correct? You went.
Yes, I did. I was able to have the opportunity to go to her farm, and I stayed there for a couple of weeks, and we went over topics of activism. It was a course that I took with her. And so yeah, I encourage everyone to learn from her. And the issues in India are far and widespread. And the reality is, when we allow corporations to have this much control over nature, over our food, they have control over us. And we've seen that all around the world, and India is a prime example right now. And they are fighting for their rights as human beings to preserve and hold on to traditional seeds and not be exploited by these corporations. And so we all have to do a better job at supporting our global family members. And again, look into Dr. Vandana Shiva. She is doing incredible work. And there are many other organizations as well that are actually helping farmers to transition from genetically modified foods to organic foods.
Yes, and we also want to thank Deborah Coons Garcia, who created that most amazing film, The Future of Food, who brought this to everyone's attention. And I will be having her as a guest on one day, and we can all of us get together and go in greater detail about this, because it's really, if you are interested in food or eating, if you eat at all, this is something you need to know about. You know, a lot of people say, I became vegan and my headache stopped, and then this happened, da 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 da, and now I don't know what's going on. They're back, and da 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 da. And a lot of raw vegans get on a high when they become raw vegans, and then they all of a sudden they say, I'm on a plateau and I'm not as well as I was when I first became raw. But look at what you're eating. You are eating toxicity in its rawest form possible. And so, to me, it's behoven to the vegan movement, and specifically the raw vegan movement, the living foods movement, to take this up and run with it and know that this is something that affects you on a minute by minute basis, because it's not just what we're eating, it's in our clothes. The cotton that a lot of us think, oh, is so much less toxic and it's much natural. Genetically modified. Most of the cotton in the United States is genetically modified. The sheets you're sleeping on, the cotton sheets and the cotton pillowcases you're sleeping on, it is all over. We have to every single day be aware of what it is that we're putting on our bodies, in our bodies, and the fact that we're also breathing it in. Because this, you don't remember, this is all energy, and it moves. A wind comes and it moves it from the farm that is using, or even the lawn of your neighbor down 2 doors from you who's using it. And the next thing you know, you're breathing it in. So people are afraid of pandemics. We need to be more afraid of this, of breathing this in, and of also the amount of it that we are actually using on a daily basis without being aware of it. I think awareness is key. I think we all have to be aware in our lives of what we're doing. And I'd like each of you to just give one 30-second last minute solution to our audience, other than how can they be active, what can they do, what changes can they make, starting with you, Rio.
Okay, another thing that I just learned about yesterday, actually, because I was looking up people that I had talked about, and I had talked about Percy Schmeiser. He was actually up in Canada, so I'm sure Rachel knows about him. He was one of the first, one of the farmers that was sued by Monsanto, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court of Canada. I just want to tell people that there's a movie that just came out. Actually, Percy is no longer with us. He passed, but this movie came out 1 week before he passed, and the movie is called Percy. I haven't seen it myself, but apparently it's supposed to tell the whole story about what happened to him with Monsanto up in Canada. So I would suggest people view that movie so they can see how insidious the whole situation is.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because Percy was one of those farmers who really inspired me a lot. Rachel, have you heard of the movie?
I have heard of the movie, and I actually had a chance to meet him in 2015, and just an incredible person. And he really fought for what he believed was right, and that's so honorable. And in a conversation that I had with him then, he said what I did then isn't possible now, just because the amount that these corporations grew and the amount of lawyers and capability that they have is far greater. But that just shows us that it was possible, and now new cases all the time, like with the Monsanto trials in the United States, there is movement that's possible. And yeah, definitely encourage everyone to watch Percy. It's really an ode to him and all of his incredibly hard work to maintain seed sovereignty and fight against these big corporations.
There's also a film in Canada from Montreal that you were featured in. What's the name of that again?
Is it Modified? Is that the one you're
Yes,
referring to?
that's the
Yeah,
one. Yes.
definitely watch Modified. It's actually on sale right now. So for anyone who's looking for the possibility of watching either DVD or online, you can go to Aube Giroux. She's the creator of the film, but you can go to modified.com and you can find out more information about it.
Great. And we have quite a few comments from Janice. We've got quite a lot. She's talking about Monsanto and what a horrible company they are, that they're greedy. And then we've got quite a few other comments, and they're all about Monsanto here. So I'm so glad that people now are beginning to realize that there is a company called Monsanto that is pretty much at the core of a lot of the issues that we are all facing now and that we're dealing with. And one other thing that I would like to leave people with today is to remember that there are solutions. I don't want you to go away from here depressed or feeling, oh my gosh, I want to go back to bed and lie down and forget about it. No, look at this. There are those of us who are here doing things on your behalf, working on your behalf. Join us, won't you? Let us know that you care enough about yourself and about others by getting with groups that are online right now that are working on this. And I say cheers to Rio and cheers to Rachel. Here's to everyone who realizes that food is not something to acquire and to eat. Food is something that we need to get involved with. So until next time, I would want to thank both my beautiful guests today for coming on, Rio and Rachel. And until next week, when our guest is Dr. Doug Graham, the originator of the 80-10-10 diet, and he'll be talking about winterizing your raw vegan diet. And it's something where if you're cooked, you really ought to listen to as well. And the week after that, we'll be having Dr. Brian Clemens from Hippocrates Health Institute. So please tune in every Sunday at this time, 11 o'clock, and please spread the word as well. There's so many people who need to know about this, who are ill and don't understand why. And I see it all the time on social media. Why do I feel this way? I changed my diet. I felt better, and now I'm stuck, and da-da-da-da. They don't know this. So please share this as much as possible, because there are solutions. We have to get involved. We can no longer pretend that this is somebody else's fight or this is someone else that needs to do this. Thank you all, everyone. Thanks for coming, and see you all next week. Thanks, Rio and Rachel.
Hello.